Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and this episode 485. I am joined, as always, by my co-host Stacy. That is at StacyPatton89 on Twitter. Stacy, how are you doing on this late Sunday night for me? A more normal Sunday night time for you as you're on the West Coast.
Still got that East Coast pride. UConn, what's up? UConn doing it big. Blue State beats Red State. Let's go.
Yes, the UConn women's team winning their 12th national championship under Gino Auriemma today in pretty dominant fashion. Yeah, we're probably not going to talk too much about that, I don't think. We will talk about the Knicks winning their 50th game of the season. They have a very nice weekend back-to-back set where they took care of business against teams that they needed to take care of business against, defeating the Hawks on Saturday, 121-105, a final score that totally flatters the Hawks. And then 112-98 tonight, which I think flatters the Suns. We're going to talk about that. Before we do that, I do have to make a few announcements. The first being that Strickland has a YouTube channel where you may watch this podcast. If you are in attendance already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. The Strickland also has merchandise, which you can find on our website at www.strick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store, and there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can find on there, like t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. The Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Strickland, this podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Takes from Obvious Bozos, a podcast hosted by Andrew Steele, a.k.a. Doug, along with Zach Blatter. And you get access to the Strickland Discord where the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Roll, my solo pod where I rant and rave with the next even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Marino, one of the best in the business. And you get access to Strickland NFL, which you guessed is a podcast about the NFL. That is hosted by Konstantin Mechkos and Desmond Novak. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and a $100 tier. Those come with a variety of additional benefits, like listening on pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. None of this would be possible without you. And none of this would be possible without BetOnline. BetOnline is actually not getting ad reads anymore. So unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, I don't have to read them right now. Okay, well, the Knicks win 112-98. They clinched their second consecutive 50-plus win season in the process. Their magic number now to clinch the 3 seed is 1 game. Right now, as it stands, the Nuggets are down 4 with 15 seconds left to the Pacers. So it doesn't seem like the Nuggets are going to seal the deal for the Knicks. But the Knicks are in obviously a very good position. They need 1 win or they need 1 Pacers loss with 5 games left for the Knicks. 4 games left for the Knicks and 4 games left for the Pacers after tonight. So assuming nothing devastating happens the rest of the way, they should be the 3 seed. I guess what I would ask you is just what were your takeaways from tonight's game? And maybe not even just tonight's game, but the weekend. For me, the main thing that I've noticed, maybe this has to do with the fact that neither of these opponents have very imposing shot creation, ball handling, initiation, however you want to put it. Aside from their main guys, needs to be said, the Suns did not have Kevin Durant tonight. But what I've noticed in these 2 games anyway is Towns playing much higher at the level, particularly, against the Hawks when Trae Young was running pick and roll tonight, when Devin Booker was running pick and rolls. I thought that was an interesting tweak and not something that we've seen nearly enough as far as I'm concerned. But that was my main takeaway from this weekend set of games is a little bit of a defensive tweak that we had not seen to date.
Yeah, you think this was his plan all along?
I don't know. That's why I asked him.
Maybe this was his lull everybody to sleep. I think that I don't take too much away from these games. The Knicks are the superior team, and they played like it. with and without Brunson. Brunson came back tonight. You see the flashes. You see what he gives. It's another dimension. I think the question is, right, this was another huge game for OG Anunoby. With Brunson back, that's encouraging. And Prez has been talking about this a lot. We all have, right? Is that going to continue? Right? Is that another source? It's not even another source of offense. We know Brunson can do it all, right? Bless you. Brunson can do it all. But I think a lot of the conversations evolve into a binary, even last year, right? With Randall on the team, it was like, well, we see what this team is like when Brunson just has full reign. It's like, yeah, but you have to win multiple ways, right? So I'll throw this back to you. The Brunson out era is over, right? And we had our first game with him in tonight, and they played pretty well against maybe a shorthanded team. I mean, Booker's still at 40, so this is still, this isn't the Wizards. We can talk about the defensive stuff. I know you mentioned Cat playing up against the level. That's another adjustment. But is there encouragement on your side that, with that timeout from Brunson, this team has figured out more ways to attack than it had before?
I don't know that they necessarily have figured out more ways to attack. I think they had to obviously give more usage to guys like OG and Mikal in Brunson's absence, and that has benefited them for sure. To your point, I think it's encouraging that OG and Mikal continued to be very involved offensively tonight, even in Brunson's first game back. And, maybe Brunson needed, maybe, I guess, I think it's really tricky. We talked about it before Brunson got hurt, basically from like January 1st through Brunson getting hurt. The Knicks offense had like really devolved into being just super reliant on Brunson running pick and rolls with Cat or whoever, getting mismatches, mismatch hunting, and a lot of individual brilliance from Brunson himself and also Karl Anthony Towns. And I think over that couple of months, we had seen Mikal and OG kind of fade into the periphery of the offense in a way that was not encouraging and certainly was not something that any of us were looking at and like, oh, this is conducive to great success in the playoffs or, in the endeavor of winning a championship. So, is that all on Thibs? Is that on Brunson needing to make the right plays? We can debate that forever. My personal belief is I think if it persists for that long and there doesn't seem to be much adjustment going on, that it's probably something that the coach is okay with. So, that's my takeaway from that. But, for Brunson to come back tonight, and I don't think he forced it much at all. He obviously is not super sharp. You could see some sloppiness and some shots that you're like, those are layups for you that he missed. But, forgetting that, like, I think it was encouraging to see him not even necessarily play off of Mikal and OG, but just kind of getting off the ball and giving those guys the opportunity to kind of keep their rhythm going. I thought that was really, really encouraging. Now, they played the Suns, who are terrible and are having a miserable season. I think they've lost 6 in a row now. They're going to be much stiffer tests. And even towards the end of the season, they'll be stiffer tests, right? They play the Cavs one more time. They play the Celtics one more time. Like, there are going to be stiffer tests than this game tonight. Will that persist against tougher competition? And do they have enough time to kind of blend all of this together? Because, it wasn't just Brunson coming back. It's important to say that. Obviously, Campaign and Deuce McBride also came back tonight. And we saw, right? Delon Wright, he's been starting. He was out of the rotation tonight. He didn't play. So there is stuff they still need to figure out. And they have to blend back together with what is really the first time they've had a fully healthy rotation the entire season. And, this is basically like them finally 78 games into the season having the 9 guys that you thought coming into the season would be in the rotation. Like there was no Precious tonight. To me, it's a really, really encouraging thing because we really got to see, okay, so when he has the full rotation, is this what we should expect? Are these the 9 guys? Now, I personally don't know that that's the right thing to do. Like, I kind of feel like Shamet can be situational. Campaign can be situational. Delon Wright can be situational.
You get no Mitch Cat minutes, right? Either.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we didn't get that. But Precious can be situational. Like, I wouldn't. I mean, we know how Thibs operates. He has his 9-minute rotation that he sets on, and like he just kind of distributes the minutes how he feels fit off of that. I wish he was a little bit more flexible with like the 8th and 9th guy, and maybe maybe tonight's not Campaign's night, so I'm going to put Delon Wright in. Maybe tonight's not. Maybe tonight's a night where we need to switch more, so we play Precious a little bit more. Like there are things I wish he would do, but forgetting those kind of idiosyncrasies. I thought tonight was really, really encouraging from the perspective of obviously what you asked about, Brunson kind of slotting back in, but Mikal and OG still getting a chance to do their thing. And then also I just thought like the lineups were nice. I thought that he mixed and matched a pretty decent amount. Thought we got to see some different combinations that we need to see and we want to see heading into the playoffs. It sucks that it took this long to finally get the full dress rehearsal, I guess. But you take what you can get, and in the sense of what this game was, I thought this was very, very encouraging in a lot of ways.
You mentioned OG and Mikal just kind of stepping up and Brunson being willing to play off ball a little bit more. I think we don't want Brunson off ball, right? We want Brunson we want the best of both worlds, right? Is it going to take another coach to get that? We want Brunson to be off ball more, but we want that still to affect teams, right? Like Steph plays off ball. You still got 10 sets of eyes on Steph every
5 sets of eyes.
Yeah, 10 eyes total. 5 sets of eyes. Well, 6, right? Steve Kerr's there. The opposing coach is also watching him. That seems to be the gap here, right? Because it shouldn't be an either or. It should be that Brunson has the ball, Brunson doesn't. Either way you look at it, this guy is a fucking monster, and it should be warping your defense no matter what, whether he has the ball or not. What are the gaps to make that happen? Is that something in Brunson's game? Is that something they've bridged a little bit? No pun intended. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the answer to that is because we've seen Brunson be really good off ball. We've talked about it before. Like the reason why him and Randall played really well together is largely down to Brunson being willing to operate off of Randall. Whereas the opposite was not really as effective. So, I don't know what exactly was the scenario this season and what was going on those couple of months before Brunson got hurt. And it's worth mentioning, like, to start the season, the ball movement and all that stuff was stuff that we were praising. It was like, wow, this is really, really impressive. This is totally different from anything we've seen from Thibs teams, certainly in New York, but I would argue throughout his entirety as a head coach. So that was like, it was weird to have, 2 months of that and then go from that to like 2 months of what felt like really, really boring, not just boring, but like pointless basketball where it was like, yeah, like they still won a lot of games and they were still good, but it didn't feel like the way it was developing over the course of the season was productive. Now, again, like, was that on Brunson? Was Brunson just kind of like maybe getting a little bit lost in terms of what he needed to do and what was best for the team and keeping guys involved? Maybe, yeah, maybe that is on Brunson. And maybe this time sitting out and seeing how the team played when he was out and kind of feeling like, okay, like I need to slot back into how they're playing versus I come back and now it's the Jaylen Brunson show again. Yeah, maybe that's part of it. But I also think part of it there, I mean, I think there are a lot of things that were going on. I think, we're still going to, again, we're going to have a lot stiffer competition than the fucking Hawks and the Suns last couple of nights. But like, we've seen this, right? Teams are now defending Josh Hart almost exclusively with their center. And when we say defending Josh Hart with their center, we're saying that very, very loosely because what they're basically doing is the center is assigned to Josh Hart, but the center is a free safety. He is clogging the paint. Their teams are daring Josh Hart to play from the perimeter, score from the perimeter, shoot from the perimeter. And he has really struggled. He's had really, really big ups and downs over the last couple of months, and a lot of it has not been great. So we saw that. We also, I think, saw Thibs fail to kind of account for that stuff and figure out ways to adjust and keep the offense fluid. And then we also saw Thibs kind of continue to just lean on the guys he trusts and what he thinks is the best way to play versus trying to, or not even trying to, but being a little bit quicker on the trigger in terms of, okay, let me put Deuce in for Hart. Let me put Shamit in or whatever the hell it is. Doesn't really matter. But trying different things, trying different lineups. And so I don't think it's just one thing. I think there's a lot of things going on. And again, like they only have 4 more games after this to kind of iron out the kinks. And then you're going to get a week off more or less until you start your first round playoff series against either Detroit or Milwaukee. We'll see who it is. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know fundamentally, I guess, what was or what was not the overriding factor in all of this. I think a lot of guys bear responsibility and culpability for some of the slippage we saw. And sports are like that sometimes. Like this happens, right? Where you kind of lose sight of what is actually the right, not even the right, I hate saying the right way to play. I feel like Larry Brown when I say that shit. But like, what is the ideal kind of way to not just play, but to keep everybody involved and get the best out of the collective group? And I don't think that's just down to one guy. Again, I think it's down to multiple guys. So, and that means players, coaches, whoever. Like, it's not just down to one. I do think very strongly that Thibs ultimately has to bear the brunt of the criticism because if you're allowing it to go on, right? Like as a coach, you have the ultimate, or in theory, you're supposed to be the ultimate authority on that. So, you have like he has to bear that responsibility. But, again, might it have been something where Brunson maybe lost sight of some things and kind of got lost a little bit in the sauce and sitting out? Right. You see, like you hear about this all the time with like quarterbacks, especially in the NFL, right? Where it's like sometimes, especially with young quarterbacks, right? Where it's like it benefits them at times to just sit on the sidelines, and not just in terms of the game day itself, but like the preparation of the week and all that type of stuff, where you benefit from seeing how, it can be some fucking bum veteran, but you benefit from kind of seeing how all of that builds up to game day, then seeing how game day unfolds, seeing how they read the field, all that type of shit. You see that a lot, you hear about that a lot with quarterbacks. I think that could be the same thing with, Brunson in this scenario where it's like, yeah, maybe he's trying to do too much. And maybe that's on him. And it required him being out for a period of time to kind of see, okay, Mikal is playing a lot better. OG is, what is it? Fucking 9 straight games now, like 60 true shooting. He scored 32 tonight. Like, to see these guys play at that level and to understand, like, you know what? I can trust them. I can get off the ball quicker. I can.
But you want both, right? You want him to get off ball, but you don't want him to be Russell Westbrook just standing, right? So that, I think, is the other step.
Well,
it's like,
I think there's a lot of things about Russell Westbrook we don't want Jaylen Brunson to be.
But it's like, even Westbrook, right? Westbrook is obviously not the shooter that Brunson is, but when you're off ball, still, we want Brunson to be as big a threat, right? I think that's the challenge, right? And Brunson is more capable of it than other guards. But just being a good shooter, we saw this yesterday with the Hawks, right? Matt Miranda, shameless plug here, but go check out Matt Miranda's recap of the Knicks Hawks game yesterday. That's part of it with the Hawks, though, right? It's that Trae Young, when he's on ball, is a magical player. And, off ball, he should be a great off ball player, right? He can cut, he can finish in traffic, he can obviously shoot from anywhere on the court. That's what you want to see from Brunson, right? And that's what would take this team to another level. Can you get both? Like, you obviously don't want to just say, okay, instead of OG just standing in the corner, let's have Brunson stand in the corner. That's not what we want. But I think that's kind of, how do you get the best of both worlds? And can we? I think is the question. Because the teams that have, the team that has won with a small guard, I'm not saying Brunson is as good as Steph, but Steph is always a threat, right? Whereas a guy like Dame,
we saw this with Brunson last year, right? Like when Randall went out, they had to change the offense, and the offense was obviously very still like Brunson centric, but they used him in some different ways where they're getting him off the ball and then moving him back on it, right? Like they're moving him around in different ways. I think there's a benefit to that for sure. And, for that to work, you need to have threats on the floor that leverage Brunson. Like, it has to be worth it to have Brunson off ball.
And we don't have a lot of good passers, right? OG is not a great passer, for example, right? So,
yeah, I think we have guys that are good at like specific types of passing, but they're not guys that are like, they don't intentionally draw help to the ball to create openings that they're like perceiving in advance, right? They're not advanced passing guys. So I think look, it has to be worth it for Brunson to be off ball. Like, to have Brunson off ball cannot just exist because you're like, well, it'd be useful to have Brunson off ball. Like, yeah, it would be useful to have Brunson off ball, but you have to be able to leverage that. And I think that is the ultimate next step. I think that's like the ultimate ceiling raising move for this team is, look, we understand, and we felt this. Anyone that's denying this is wrong. Like, if you don't think it matters to have a guy that ultimately, end of the day, you can just toss the ball to and know that he's gonna be able to get a shot up or create a shot for somebody else, there's a massive value to that. And we saw that, I thought, in both the games against the Clippers in his absence, and then also the game against the Cavs this week, where it was like, the Knicks got off to like good starts, and it's good and it's great, and it's like the ball's moving, everything's flowing, but then these teams make adjustments, they lock in defensively, and now that flow is gone. That's not there, and that's when you really need a guy like Brunson to be able to like unlock things. And they didn't have that. And I think that's why a big
But
piece of why they
you want that to be your kind of you want that to be your nuke, right? You don't want that to be your F-16, so to speak.
yeah, you don't want that to be you don't want that to be how you live every fucking play, but you also definitely need that. Like you need that. Every team needs that. Like you don't win a championship just because look, you talked about Steph. Like, yeah, look, everything Steph does is great. The fact that he can play off the ball is great, and there's all types of ways to leverage that. Like, go watch how they won that 2022 championship. Like end of the day, when it was money time, it was not like, oh, let's get stuff off the ball and like run them around 15 different screens, like and open up other things for like fucking Kuminga or whatever. No, it's like, okay, it's fucking money time. Like, giving the ball to Steph. We're gonna run a pick and roll, and we're gonna let him cook. And yeah, you need that, but that can't be the total sum of everything. And that's unfortunately how it was starting to like feel that last, again from like January 1st till what March 7th or whatever it is. I think that's when Brunson got hurt. So like for a 2-month period, you're watching these games and you're just like, I mean, like I remember when we beat the Rockets, right? It's like a 124-118 victory, and it was a great win. And he cooked, he cooked Amen. He cooked a lot of guys. Amen, Tari, Dylan Brooks, like a bunch of defenders. But I remember watching that game, and you're like, look, this is awesome, and it's great. Like, look, sometimes you just need to get a game, however you get the game, right? Like sometimes a win it's tough and it's ugly, and you just got to get it done. But when you watch that game, you're like, it's great that you got this win. But can we win would we win a 7-game series against a team that is super good defensively and talented and deep like the Rockets? Would we win a 7-game series against a team like that, leaning on it to this degree? And I to me, the answer is no. I don't think you can. And even if you can win a series like that, can you win 4 series like
I mean,
that?
we
Because that's the
have.
goal.
We did that
Right.
against, yeah.
Right. But the goal is to win 4 series, not 1 series or 2 series or whatever. And I just don't know that you can win a championship that way. Now, I'm also on the record, and I stand by this, that I don't think the Knicks can win a championship this year regardless. But what you want to see is you want to see a play style that you're like, okay, let's see the play style, and let's see how far that ceiling takes us this year. And within that play style now, is that if we add an increased or a better player here, if we add a better player there, now what like it's like if effectively like the idea is like what is actually holding us back here? Is it the play style that's holding us back or the talent? And I think what was frustrating about those 2 months from like January 1st again to March 7th was you felt like, look, maybe the talent isn't here to win a championship, but this play style is never going to win a championship because it's just not like it's not good enough. It's not diverse enough. It is not utilizing the full breadth of your talent enough. And that was what was frustrating about that. Watching a game like tonight, and again with the caveat of the Suns are not exactly, this is not the 2000 Lakers. This is not the 98 Bulls, like 96 Bulls. Like this is not the 2015 Warriors. Like this is not some all-time team that you're like, wow, what a fucking win. But just to see them kind of play in a way where you're like, okay, OG's still a central focus of the offense. Mikal Bridges is still getting a lot of touches and getting shots up and very involved. And then obviously you have Karl Anthony Towns doing his stuff and Josh Hart still doing Josh Hart things. Like when you see all of those guys at least try to work together, get the best out of their collective talent, that's what you want to see. And then if that ultimate, even if the ultimate ceiling of the current talent we have is even with this better play style is shorter than a championship, so be it. But you can make more informed decisions, and then you don't feel like even with better talent we can't win, right? Like you can come away, hopefully by the end of the season we would come away thinking, okay, yeah, maybe we didn't beat the Celtics or the Cavs this year, but that is more about getting a little bit more talent on the perimeter, getting a little bit more talent on the wing, whatever it is, whatever these specific things are we need. And you can feel better about it because it clarifies and cuts through kind of like what is actually required to get to that final level.
Yeah, I do want to go back to this is the first thing you mentioned, and I kind of took it in a different direction. So the Knicks are now back up to 13th in defensive rating. A lot of that increases happened with Brunson out. Interestingly enough, Indiana's at 14th, so probably a more formidable opponent. But you look at defensive rating, they're 13th. Offensive rating, I imagine they're still probably top 5, even though they've been not great. Yeah, they're ranked 5th. Let's talk a little bit about Towns. And, one, do you think they've been better on defense for a while, right? Even the Cavs game, which, kind of the floodgates fell open in the second half, but they've been better on defense. Do you think Brunson being out has been a big part of that? I don't. I actually thought he's one of their better defenders. But two, let's talk a little bit more about Cat hedging, and if you think this is kind of something we're going to see more of going forward, right? Because drop is clearly not working for him.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that, because against the Cavs, like, they pretty much exclusively played drop in that game, and it wasn't great. Obviously, they eventually got figured out, and I mean, what was it? Cleveland went. Am I misremember? I think they went 15 of 15 from 2 in the third quarter. I think they basically missed like 4 shots inside the arc in the entire second half. I don't know. Like, why was that the case? I can't answer that. Maybe does Thibs think like playing drop is less taxing for Cat, and therefore, when we're shorthanded or something, he feels like that's something that we should go to and is useful, or is the best way to kind
but
of
even
like
being shorthanded,
keep him fresh.
like
Brunson, I'm just saying.
Back doesn't affect Cat's minutes.
Right? No, I don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know why it is that in some of these games, like, I forgot who. I think it was Chris Herring that wrote it, but like when they played the Celtics earlier in the season, like they ran drop pretty much the entire game, and obviously the Celtics have destroyed the Knicks this year. So, what's the reason for that? Because at that point, it was like pretty much fully healthy. I think Mitch wasn't back yet, but Mitch isn't playing with Cat a lot. So the fact that you're seeing Cat, like yesterday, Mitch was out, right? Mitch didn't play yesterday, but you were still seeing Cat hedge more. And then tonight, like, yeah, Mitch played, but Cat didn't play with Mitch. So even then, you're seeing him do more of that. I don't know what the reason is for that. Again, like, if I were to theorize, my theory would be that he's comfortable doing that against teams where he basically is like, I don't respect anybody other than this one guy on that team to create. So I'll just take the risk of making sure the ball gets out of his hands, or whatever his reasoning is. I think he's more comfortable doing it in those scenarios. Now, can he, look, we're going to play the Cavs again. We're going to play the Cavs again. We're going to play the Celtics again. So we'll get an idea of how committed or valuable he views this. But I can't, again, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Towns is better at that type of aggressive coverages. He's better at hedging. He's better playing at the level, blitzing, trapping. He's better at that stuff. He's better at switching. I think even if you still want to play drop as your base, there's a value to mixing it up more than we have. And that's really all I hope to see. Like, I don't I think we all appreciate and understand that even if Thibs does stuff that like we disagree with, it's not just like that he does it that's frustrating. It's that he doesn't deviate a lot. He doesn't mix and match. He doesn't experiment a little bit more. So even if like the base at his core, right, I think Thibs is always going to be like we play drop, right? That's his core. That's a core principle for him. I'm fine with that. I just want to see a little bit more willingness to experiment and be creative. And if it took until game 77 or 76 and 77 to get to that point, so be it. I don't really care as long as you get to that point at at some stage. And if this is when it happened, great, fantastic. Like, then it happened. We don't need to worry about then what did or didn't happen for the first 70 some odd games in the season. We can just worry about, okay, well, this is what it is now. And if this is what it is now, where you're going to, they still play drop tonight at times with Cat. It wasn't like he was just hard hedging or just, but mix and matching more is really what you want. And there's a value to that, not just in terms of playing to maybe the strengths of Karl Anthony Towns, but also like keeping your opponent off balance, where they're not always certain of what you're going to do or what the coverage is. And now they're not operating with as much certainty, and they're just a little bit more uncertain of how to operate. And that uncertainty has value for sure.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head here. And like, with the the worst parts of the games of the Celtics, it's like Tatum goes into a pick and roll and you just automatically know what's going to happen. Cat's going to be in drop. He's going to split it. He's going to pull up. He's like, it never seems like, it really seems like the Celtics are just AIs, making reads. Like you need that, even if it's that split second where they have to figure out, these are great players. It's not going to kill, it's going to stop them. But Mark Cuban talked about this when he was talking about the Mavs playing against the Heat, and he said just make LeBron think, right? Like we play a zone, but he has to take that extra second instead of being able to attack, or instead of knowing what's coming, he has to read the defense. He's LeBron. It's still not going to be great for us because he will make the right read, but you have that extra. It turns it from like a completely sloped playing field to a pretty even one. And, I think that's a good point you made. It's not about never playing drop, or it's not about always hedging. It's about giving them something to think about, right? And you can say, well, we just don't have the horses right now. We don't have a center that can play that. Cat is limited. That's all the more reason to do that. That's all the more reason to use those other parts of the equation in terms of them having to read, in terms of them having to adjust and not be able to do the same thing every time. Is like, what's happening against the Celtics particularly is not that, right? They know what they're going to do every time, and it's almost boring to watch. They're going to get a bucket, or they're going to get a good look, and then they get an offensive rebound, right? And that's its own thing. I just think that mixing things up more, this isn't the only sport where that's the case, right? You watch, especially in today's game, right? The defensive coordinators who play one way we saw this at Michigan with Don Brown. You want to play cover one all the time, you're getting fucking cooked.
Oh,
and it's not that cover one is bad. It's not that cover one is bad. Vic Fangio has to go cover one sometimes, right? On the opposite end of the spectrum. But you can't let them know what they're going to see, because teams are too good. The games are too favorable to offense for that to happen. So I think that, that's a pretty good point. We'll see what happens. It looks like the Pacers won.
The Pacers won. They won 125.
Pacers won. So we are still 3 games ahead with 5 games to go. Again, things look pretty favorable. Do you have a preference between the Pistons and the
Bucks? Give me the Bucks all day, every day.
But you're a Giannis guy.
That's fine. I do not believe in this Milwaukee team. The Pistons have basically been like, if you just look at the season from, let's use January 1st as a starting point here. From January 1st until today, if you look at their numbers, the Pistons are number 6 in net rating. They have a pretty mediocre offense, 15th. Worth noting, the Knicks offense since January 1st is 16th, but the Pistons have the 15th best offense in the league by offensive rating, and they have the third best defense by defensive rating in that time. They're good. They're good. Like, I think the start of the season is weighing down some of their metrics. This is a very good team. Now, is it a team that I think the Knicks should beat regardless? Yeah, I do. And I think that should be the expectation. That's no disrespect to them, but I think the Knicks are a more talented top end team than the Pistons. They should expect to go into a series against them and win that series.
But it won't
But
be
if you're
fun.
asking me who the fuck would I rather play, yeah, it was definitely the Bucks. We don't even know if, first of all, I don't really buy this reporting of like, oh, we got good updates on Lillard. Like, dude, he has blood clots. Like, I don't. You don't get to like just come back from like you don't just come back from that earlier than expected because things are good. And Milwaukee has been pretty. I mean, we've owned Milwaukee now for like 2 seasons here, basically since we
Since
beat
the
them
OG
on.
trade.
I mean, not even
Like,
before that. We beat them on
nah,
Christmas.
before that we fucking
We
got
we
Christmas.
we,
That's true. Yeah,
we
we
beat
also
them.
got smoked by them. The back-to-back games is what I'm thinking about with
We beat them on Christmas
Boston
last
and
year, and
Milwaukee.
then since then, it's been a joke. We have destroyed them. Destroyed them. Like, these games have not been competitive, even when they're at full strength or whatever. Like, we have destroyed them. We're a bad matchup for them. I don't think Doc Rivers is a particularly good coach. Even if Dame comes back,
You don't think
who
you should
knows?
get credit for winning 3 games in all those
I
series?
I thought that was an amazing quote. I don't even know, like, if Dame does, even if Dame does come back, what kind of condition he's going to be in. I don't know. There's just a lot of things going on there, and then Kuzma's a fucking joke. Like, they play so many guys that are just bad basketball players, and they don't really do anything that affects us. Like, I would even say Giannis, like, as great as he is, like, his kind of play style really plays into what we want to do
He's
defensively.
not that good.
Okay, that's just a stupid statement. I'm gonna ignore that. But like, the way he plays is just not as challenging. Like, even a guy like Jokic, right? A guy that wants to score inside, and the team, and not just that they want to score inside, but how dependent those teams are on those guys. I think that's a really good matchup for us. And then defensively, I don't think the Bucks are anything special, and I think the Pistons are actually good.
Just say it. Giannis is Greek Julius Randle. Come on.
No, I'm not going to do that. I think that's a pretty stupid statement, and the fact that you think Kevin Durant's better than him all the time is stupid. So, yeah,
Did I say that?
you
I don't
have
know if I
said
said.
that. You have definitely said that.
Well, I think Barkley's better than both. I hope we can agree
Okay,
on that.
well,
But
that's just not true. So,
do you think Barkley's better than Kevin Durant?
no,
You don't think Barkley's better than Kevin Durant? I
no,
disagree with that. You think
that's
both are
fine.
better than Barkley? Okay.
And there's no fucking world where Barkley's better than Giannis. Barkley took his like conditioning seriously for 1 season. I'm sorry, I'm not listening to any.
Shaq took his conditioning seriously for
Okay,
1
well,
season. He's still better than like
Barkley
Jalen Duran.
dominates,
Jalen Duran takes his conditioning seriously. Is he
right?
better
But
than Shaq?
you're not. But he's not good. Like, so that's the difference. Like, Barkley
Maybe.
took his conditioning seriously 1 season, and in that 1 season he was really good and lost in the finals.
I think
Congratulations
you're
to him.
really underestimating who I mean, maybe it was just a, just being that unique at the time. I think that actually I could give you that, because if you say, well, if Barkley played today, he wouldn't be any, he wouldn't be as unique. But
I wouldn't say that. I think he'd still be a great player.
yeah, so I think you're underrating just how insane he was. But
I don't think I'm underrating Barkley to say that Giannis is better than him. I'm sorry. Like,
no, but you said KD though. That's where I was surprised.
well, yeah, I think KD's better than him. I don't think that's like, I don't. First of all, nobody can accuse me of
And
overrating.
you'd put Dirk and most of the other guys in that.
I'd put
Garnett.
Yeah, that's not even a question.
Oh, interesting. All right. I actually think Barkley, I mean, the advanced stats love him. Think about how much the advanced stats love Draymond.
Yep. The advanced stats also tell me that Nikola Jokic is an elite defensive player. So always trust the advanced
They tell
stats.
me that Emmanuel Quickly is better than Alfred Payton, and clearly that wasn't true. So,
yep.
No, actually, that article on Nikola Jokic, I think Krishna Narsu, who is like if you're into advanced stats, he is one of the guys to follow. Was like, this is very much the wrong year. That has been true in the past, but not this year with Jokic being underrated. No, I think. But I think we're pretty much on the same page here. It's going to be fascinating. It'll be interesting to see if I think you mentioned that if it happened in game 78 or game 48, it's fine for Thibs to make the adjustment. I think that actually there's a reason why you'd prefer it in 48, and part of that is that
you have time to work on things.
Yeah, and they just don't, which probably I think will show up more against a team like Boston or Cleveland.
I mean, I'll even say this. I think even tonight, like Phoenix got a lot of open threes in this game. They didn't cash them in. Now, I'm not saying that like, I'm not arguing that Knicks should have lost this game or whatever, but the point is like, even within the fact that they're trying these things, like you can see some of the
it's not like
it's not
a well-oiled machine yet, even though this might be the way to go, right?
Right.
And yeah, I mean, you look at some of the, I think they mostly did a good job of funneling shots to guys you don't expect, but Bradley Beal, who is in theory a shooter, 0 for 5. Grayson Allen, who is a shooter, 0 for 6. So there's kinks to work out, and it sucks that you have to work them out now. But this is part of what we talked. I mean, we've talked a lot about how it takes these teams multiple years for it to fully gel. And part of it, when you're not in that situation, we probably, when me and you love to shit on the Celtics, right? And when they were kind of building up and not there, it was always easy to say Tatum just fucking sucks, or they don't have it, when they probably were going through a lot of these injuries, right? They had to fit in KP. They had to manage a Smart loss. They had to manage Smart when he was there, getting hurt all the time. So some of that is out of Thibs' control, for sure, because it's just the sample is already small in terms of one season to get these guys on the same page, and then you deal with injuries, and we're just talking about games, but guys being out of practice or whatever. That adds to like the needed sample to really like feel comfortable. I do want to talk a little about Deuce. I thought Deuce came back and was Deuce. Did you have any thoughts on his game tonight? I thought the defense was good. Hit a couple of threes. Wasn't hitting a whole lot, but wasn't.
I think when Deuce is healthy, it's pretty straightforward eval. Like, he is a really good defender. He is a really good off-ball shooter, like spot up shooter, catch and shoot player. Not the greatest ball handling on ball creator. I didn't see anything from him that I have not already known is the case. So it was just good to see him play.
Well, he's healthy now, right?
It was good to see him look. Yeah, it was good to see him be healthy, look like the player that we know he is when he's healthy. But yeah, other than that, I didn't really take much from it, which is not really like, not even, I'm not dismissing him. I'm just saying, like, it's pretty straightforward for me. Like, I was like, okay, Deuce looks like Deuce. Good. Great. Fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you a question, actually. I want to go into Deuce a little bit. Pause. If Deuce was 6'4", if Deuce was 6'4", how much differently would the evaluation of him be? And 2, do you think it really matters that he's not 6'4"? Like, it seems to me on defense, he can do everything a 6'4" guy does. But it seemed like you just mentioned, right? You were like, well, he's not the greatest on-ball person. And people are like, yeah, you have to be for 6'1". For most players, that's true. I think Deuce is functionally a 6'4" guy, but I'm curious if you agree on
that. What do you mean by functionally 6'4"?
As in, like, if he was 6'4", I don't think we'd care how much he could do stuff on ball, right? Or we'd care less. Like 6'1", you have to do stuff on ball. Do you think we should treat him like he's that guy, like a 6'4" off-ball player, and stop trying to analyze him like he's 6'1"?
Sure. Like, uh, yeah, I guess. Like, I don't know. I guess I think he is what he is, and what he is useful. There are limitations to it because of his size. Like, I think there are matchups where you can feel that, the fact that he's
Yeah, if he guards Cade or Tatum, but like
well,
for the
not even
most
just that,
part,
but like I think the fact that like the best version of him has to play alongside guys that can create at a higher level, and because of that, and because of the makeup of our roster, his best lineups are often alongside Jaylen Brunson, who's
but if he
obviously
can
also
play,
not a
but if he can play
so.
bigger, that's my point. If he's like,
Well,
you're saying
I'm
that
saying
because he's
I'm
6'1",
saying no,
and
no.
but if
I'm
you just treated him like he was 6'4", then maybe it's
no,
not as
no.
big
That
an issue.
that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I think there are matchups where there are limitations to that, but like I mean, how many of those matchups are there? You're talking about like Boston and I
Oklahoma
don't know.
City has a great point guard, I guess. So
Yeah,
and a big point guard.
OKC or like, but like a lot of these teams. I think that
I don't think
you.
Cleveland is one. I think he should start it because Cleveland, you know.
Well, I mean, I start play more or whatever, however you want to put it, but like
Well, Cleveland is
I
specifically a team where I think you should get more minutes than Josh Hart because it's better. They have two great point of attack players, right? That's what I mean. So, and
yeah,
there are
I
teams like
think
that. It's not always that the team just or size isn't everything in every matchup, right? So,
yeah, no, I agree, and so like that's what I'm saying. Like I think a lot of matchups it doesn't matter. Most matchups I don't think it matters what his size is, but there are ones where it does, and like that's the ones you can worry about when you get to them. But for the most part, like I don't know, I wouldn't worry too much about his height. I wouldn't worry too much about his size. I would worry more about like are we effective when he's on the floor with XYZ players, and is that something that we can impose on them regardless of what the matchups are?
is there any player on the team you don't think he's effective with?
Not really. No. I mean, I would say that he's not particularly effective when he has to be the point guard. So that's something that you would like to avoid, and that's fine. But like, if he's on the floor with if he's on the floor with Jaylen Brunson, that doesn't. It never really worries me that much. It never worries me as much as
Even when he
Thibs,
plays with
obviously.
Bridges, it's like really when he's just the only guy with campaign. Even when he plays with Bridges, it works out.
Yeah, but he's not. I mean, he doesn't play with Bridges. Like he very rarely is the point guard with Bridges. So, like,
That's my point. That is exactly my point, though, right? Like the threshold for the guy who needs to play with Deuce is also lower because Deuce is so great off ball, right? I think the net ratings with Bridges, I looked him up. I think it's like plus 12 as of a week ago. Josh Hart is still pretty high. So as long as like someone else can do something, I mean, you would love to have him play with quickly. That would have been on both ends an awesome group. But that's kind of my point, right? It's like the threshold for like, yeah, he can't play point, but you don't need fucking prime Chris Paul to play next to him. You need he could have played with Elf. He could have been great next to Albert Payton, you know. So yeah.
well, yeah. I mean, I don't really have any pushback on that.
Yeah, so I mean, well, it's a point we've kind of made. To and I think that I think that there's unless there's a like Deuce has struggled. When has Deuce struggled? He struggled. You know, there was a game I remember where Alec Burks did have to come in, and that was the right call against Detroit. It was during that lost. Can we call that the lost season? I think we should call that a lost season.
It is a lost
Uh,
season.
that was the lost season, and he had to guard Cade, and it was disappointing because he guarded Cade in college, and that's probably I'm sure you've seen the clip, but he had this one sequence against Cade where he strips the ball from Cade on full court pressure, gets a layup, then he gets in the passing lane where Cade is pressured, dunks the ball on Cade. But in the game, Cade was just taking him to the block and shooting over him, which is the limitation to your point, right? But against and the other time we've seen him struggle was against TJ McConnell last year in the playoffs, which I think we've seen him defend TJ pretty well this year. one, TJ was just on a fucking heater all last playoffs. Two, he's a good player. And three, I think he is the kind of player that's going like if we watch Deuce defend Donovan Mitchell, we saw Deuce defend Donovan Mitchell for like 5 minutes when he hadn't played all season, right? Or he was used sparingly all season. And he comes in and he had, I mean, you remember this, right? He had Donovan Mitchell in hell. Like Donovan Mitchell at one point was throwing up these fucking crazy prayers on that's Donovan Mitchell. That is a top 15, 20, whatever you want to call it, player getting just destroyed by Deuce McBride. And but it's almost like TJ is a tougher matchup for, or that version of TJ that we saw last year was a tougher matchup because I think he can handle size and speed. What he can't handle is, the just how unpredictable TJ was. I don't think anybody can really, and the way that TJ was playing, it was. I think that
TJ is also basically
prime Gary Payton on him, and it would have been tough.
TJ was basically playing the best ball of his career. I mean, he gave the Celtics work in the Eastern Conference Finals too. So.
But it was also the inherent unpredictability, right? It wasn't like when you play Donovan Mitchell, he's gonna fucking go hard, right? If you overplay that, he's gonna pull up. I'm not saying that's simple or hard or easy to defend at all. It is something that Deuce, especially, is more quick to deal with than you don't know where TJ is going. And then he might just pull up and take that midi, or he's going to keep his dribble at all times, right? So, but I think they really need that on this team. Like his, I mean, I just talked about a guy who has killed the Knicks all season, Donovan Mitchell. I haven't seen too much of Deuce on Garland, but I would imagine most of the same things apply. Garland's probably a little bit quicker in small spaces than Mitchell, but they're both very easy pull up guys. You got to find ways to get that guy on the floor on a team, especially challenged on defense as it is, and challenged on. I don't think Deuce is fucking Dante, but he has a quick trigger. They don't like Bridges might be a better shooter than Dante. That kind of trigger. Neither does OG for sure. I mean, is it fair to say Deuce is the best off-ball shooter on the Knicks besides Brunson and Cat?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's third on the team in catch and shoot 3-point percentage.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the percentages, but like just overall, right? Like your gut, like it's got to be Deuce, right? I mean, the guy's the quickest trigger. He has range. He can get it off with a contest.
I mean, yeah, I think OG is up there, especially the way he's been shooting lately. But yeah, I mean, Deuce is as good as anybody else on the team. As an off-ball shooter.
OG's got a slower release, not as good at the top of the arc. Bridges slower release. Hart is his own thing, and then Shamet is just not what he used to be, right? So,
well, yeah, I'm unsure what you're asking me now at this point because I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying that I don't think I'd put even OG in that convo. Like, I think Deuce is pretty clearly the third best shooter on the team. But I'm not trying to argue. What I'm saying is, yeah, like they need to find a way to get him 25 minutes at least in the playoffs. That's kind
of I mean, they should, and they did last year. I mean, last year was weird too because they obviously were undermanned, and he had to play more because of it. But I mean, it's worth remembering. Like Thibs did close with him in Game 1 over Dante. He closed with him in Game 4.
Dante was ass, by the way, for the beginning of the series. We should know.
Yeah.
Until he put it on Maxey.
Yeah, he closed with him over Dante in Game 1, Game 4, and Games 5 and 6, I think. I have to go back. But I know for sure he closed over him in Game 5, not Game 6. Game 5 he did, which was a really annoying loss, and they should have won anyway. But he closed with him over him in that game too. So, he does have some trust in him. He's shown that previously. This year has not, we've talked about this endlessly. It has not been Thibs's finest coaching season. But, the stuff that actually matters, the stuff we're really going to judge him on is coming up here, right? It's coming up after we round out this regular season and finish out the rest of the schedule. The playoffs are what is going to matter. And, I guess we'll just have to see what it ends up being. But, yeah, I mean,
how would you go ahead? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, should Deuce play more than he's played at times this year? I think so. And I do think he should be a minimum 25-minute a night type guy. But, he has to obviously get those minutes, then we can see how it happens.
And I would go as far as say if we play Cleveland, you got to play 35 because we don't have a point of attack. We don't have a good. The best point of attack defender we have is Bridges, and he's best off ball. Hart is a very inconsistent point of attack defender, also way better off ball. So, to me, like in that series, when you're facing two great guards, it's different with Boston because of how they use their guards. With Cleveland, he has to play I think Deuce has to play 35 minutes in that game in that series.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't really have a strong feeling on the amount of minutes he needs. I just think he needs to play more than what he was. I think you need to be quicker in putting him on the floor at times. Like there are times where just takes way too long to adjust to what's happening. So I mean that's what I think. But I would even say that he should play more against Boston than he has. I would say that they need
And he
him
has,
to.
but I don't think he needs 35, right? He's 20, 25. Cleveland is the matchup where it's really glaring. One, because I've seen him lock up Donovan Mitchell. And two, because, it made more sense to not play him when you had Quickly. They didn't have Alec Burks on the team, but, they had, even RJ could guard up at the point of attack. They had more guys, right? I mean, we have OG, but then it's like if you have Troy Polamalu and you use him on Wes Welker, right? Yeah, you can do that. It's a Pyrrhic victory, right? So that's what I was kind of getting at. I do want to talk a little bit about. So this is 50 wins. The Knicks have now 50 wins in back-to-back seasons. Do you know the last time that happened? I actually don't.
I would imagine it was sometime in the 90s.
But I think it's worth talking about. The Knicks improved to 15-28, giving them consecutive 50-win wins, first time since having 4 in a row from 91 to 94. So they haven't done this since Pat Riley. It is. We've complained all year, probably more than we have since 21-22, which again, as we just called it, was a lost season. About this team, the last 2 years there was just they were beating expectations. This year the expectation was 50 wins, but as you reflect now, right, and we don't know if they're the 3 seed or the 4 seed, lost their starting, lost Isaiah Hartenstein, lost, they had to pivot. And because I remember, I bring this up because in the Strickland, you had said, well, I want them to get 51. And I get that, right? You want that psychological feeling that we still got better, right? But I think pivoting and still ending up with the same number of wins, again, I don't think you can have it both ways, right? Either you can say Isaiah Hartenstein was not that big a deal, fine. Or you can say that, as most people do, is he was awesome, and the Knicks did everything they could to keep him. And they still ended up pivoting to something that's on the same level. If you can take a step back from kind of, where we're in the trees and looking at, all of the teams that they're maybe not still equipped to beat, you have to consider a successful season, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. To me, the season will be successful if they win their first round series and then play a competitive series against Boston or Cleveland. The rest of it kind of doesn't matter. I want 51 wins more because we get 51, then we know we're the 3 seed, which is nice. And yeah, it'd be nice to make sure that we finish with a better record than we did last year. So for sure, I want those things. But what is success this year? I don't think it has much to do with regular season stuff. I think it has more to do with how does this team perform against the best teams that we should face in the second round of the playoffs, be it very likely Boston, but in the worst case scenario where the Knicks shit the bed the next 4 games and the Pacers went out the rest of the way. You play Cleveland in the second round, assuming again that you take care of your first round matchup. Like that's
Would
what
you
matters.
still rather play Cleveland than Boston though? Because I think that was something that was consensus with us for most of the year, and now Cleveland is that good where maybe that's not a thing. But I'm curious if you think
No, I'd still rather play Cleveland. We've not played them with the full deck, and I still think that there are things about. I still don't fully buy into like the 2 bigs is totally fine in the playoffs and the spacing. They have it all perfectly matched. Like, and now look, they have pivots. They don't need to play both bigs together. They can play, 4 out, 1 in. Like they have that option. So I'm not saying they're an easy matchup, but we know who their 4 best players are. And generally speaking, it's hard to not play those 4 guys a lot in a playoff series.
Well, who do you think was the best player against them the last time when we played them in the playoffs? Who do you think was the Knicks' most important player when we played them in the playoffs?
It was Brunson. I know everybody's been like, no, it's Brunson. It's Brunson.
Okay. Is there a case for somebody else?
No, there's not. And that's fine if you want to make the case. Just make the case. Because I'm not going to agree with you, but it's a fine case to make.
Was Mitchell Robinson great against the Cavs?
Yeah, he was great against the Cavs.
How many games did he played against them this year?
No, I don't think
he did not play on Thursday.
He played any of them.
So that's kind of the point. I am with you, by the way. Brunson was obviously the best player, but Mitchell Robinson owned their bigs, who have killed the Knicks, by the way. Jarrett Allen is taking a dump on Karl-Anthony Towns. So is Mobley. So that's a pretty big deal, right? So I'm adding to your point. I agree with you completely. Like we haven't played with them the full deck. We haven't played with them with a guy who, whether or not he was the best player in that series or not,
he's a difference maker in the series.
2 of their best players, and as much that's kind of the thing, right? Like, I don't know if you agree with this, right? Mitchell is their engine on offense. Garland and Mitchell are their star players. You take out Mobley and Allen, which Mitch did, and that's why that even becomes a debate. But Mitch took out their fucking legs, just destroying them on the glass on both ends. You take out their legs, Mitchell and Garland don't look like Sari anymore, because those are the legs of the team, and that's the one thing Mitch can do. He can break those fucking legs.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Mitch Robinson would be pretty key to any potential outcome of the Knicks beating the Cavs. What I would also caution anybody against is I don't know what to expect from Mitch. I mean, he was great.
And Allen and Mobley are also better players, but yeah.
Right. I'm just saying, we've seen him be great at points since he's come back, and then we've seen, I thought he was terrible tonight. I did not think he did anything particularly well tonight. And there's not really I don't know what the reasoning for it is. He didn't play last night. He basically had 4 days off because he didn't play the game against Cleveland either. Now he was fantastic against why am I blanking? Who did he play for Cleveland? Whoever, doesn't matter.
Trae Young. Atlanta.
We didn't play Atlanta before Cleveland.
Oh, before Cleveland, sorry.
I'm just totally blanking on this right now. But he's had great games. He's had great moments. He had great stretches. He also come back at times in games.
It's the Sixers, sorry.
Yeah, the Sixers. He was really, really great in that game. But he also has had games where you're like tonight, where you're I don't know, is he fully back? Are the legs there? Can he really hang? And we kind of saw this up and down nature with him in 2021-22 when he came back from another long-term injury that season. So, I don't know that we can depend on him to be the guy he was in 2023 against them. But if the Knicks have a chance of winning that series, they need him to be consistent. They need him to be fit, and they need him to show up consistently because that guy is a problem for them. And I think he's still a problem for them. I still don't think they're a particularly strong defensive rebounding team. I still think he is a guy that can bully. I think he can bully Jared Allen on the glass. I think he can bully Evan Mobley on the glass. And because I think they will play double big a lot, and they do play double big a lot, it makes the potential of playing him with Karl Anthony Towns still pretty enticing to me. I still think there's a big value to that. And yeah, that's, the Celtics are, to me, just kryptonite for the Knicks in a lot of ways. I really don't know what path the Knicks can walk with their current roster to match up and truly have a chance of winning a series against Boston. I don't feel that way about Cleveland. And that's not really I'm not disrespecting them, because I think they would probably still beat the Knicks and should probably beat the Knicks based on what we've seen so far this season. But do I think there's a world where the Knicks can beat them? Yeah, I'll believe that until I don't, I guess. I think there's always a world where the Knicks can beat Cleveland, because I don't particularly think that I don't think they challenge the Knicks in the same way or even close to the way Boston is. Because at the end of the day, they can't go 5-0 the way that Boston can. And obviously they found really, really successful.
Right? And Hunter can play. I don't know how much they play Hunter at the 4, but
Mobley takes 3.5 threes a game, dude. I don't care what he shoots from 3. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. He can shoot 55%. I'd be like, cool. Awesome. When you take 7, then we'll care. He clearly doesn't want to be that's not, and that's fine. They found ways to pivot around that and still maintain a high 3-point volume as a team and shoot a great percentage as a team. So I'm not trying to dismiss any of that.
But it's not 5 out the same way the Celtics are 5 out.
I mean, yeah, it's not 5 out at all, really.
Have you heard of a team from Ohio losing when heavily favored over the last 4 years?
A couple times, yeah.
I'll take my odds there. Yeah, I think. It's just Boston's just this fucking thing, right? They got wing. Everyone can attack, right? Cleveland is close to that, but Allen can't attack the same way. Maybe Horford even can, right? Porzingis is probably still a little bit more polished as an offensive player than Mobley, and you'd rather deal with DeAndre Hunter. I think is a game changer for them. But it seems to be a very difficult problem to solve versus just we see this in life all the time, right? There's things that you're like, this is going to be fucking annoying to do, but I could do it. That's the Cavs. And then there's things you're like, I have no capability of doing this. And that's what Celtics feel like right now. I'd have to agree with all that. But I think that losing Hartenstein and steadying the ship at the end of the day, you would have to think, especially I don't think either of us are in the boat that the Knicks are just the 5 picks or whatever they gave up for Bridges kills them. So if you're, I think there are people who are like, well, we didn't get better and we pushed in all our chips. If you don't believe you push in all their chips, then this season has been, provided they don't lose to the Pistons or something, fine.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure what you're asking me here, I guess.
Yeah, 50, I think them winning 50 today is why I bring it up, right? Because that they did equal last season despite losing Isaiah Hartenstein. I think it's worth acknowledging.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think that's what people forget all the time. And, I get why, non-Knicks fans portray it that way. I don't understand why Knicks fans continuously, ignore the fact that they lost a top, I don't know, 10 starting center for nothing. Yeah, they couldn't keep him. And that was out of their control. So they had to, they made moves, whatever, to kind of keep maintain their level and potentially increase their ceiling moving forward. But like, yeah, I don't. I still would struggle to call it a successful season if you win a first round series, but then you play Cleveland or Boston, and it's just like a fucking beatdown. Like I don't think you can qualify that as a successful season, because if that happened, like, I mean, I'll throw this at you. Like, if that happened, would you be like, you can tell me that you think it's a successful season, but let's say that happens, right? They win a first round series and then they get swept by Boston or something. You would be like, yeah, we probably need to move on from Thibs. So if you're going to fire a coach, or if you're calling to fire the coach, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I am wrong, but like, I would be
I'm
calling to
not
probably
there
fire the
yet.
coach at that point. I don't know how I don't know how I'd call that a successful season.
I would call, I mean,
That's like,
it does, if it's not successful, it could still be neutral. It doesn't have to be unsuccessful at that point. It's not quite that binary. It could just be like, yeah, you did what you were expected to do. Fine.
well, it's
I
weird
think the
because at
reasons I would want
the
to
start of
fire
the season,
Tibbs, the reasons I would
I
want to
mean,
fire
the
Tibbs are
thing,
more process related than the
right? But the
result.
process is why you get smoked in the series.
Is it the only reason? I don't know, but if I
I
saw
think
Tibbs
if you
make, okay, I think there's a world in which Tibbs hedges with Cat, plays Deuce 30 minutes, tries a bunch of shit, and we still get swept.
okay, but those games would be more competitive. And that's kind of my point. Like,
Do you think they would
it,
be? I don't know. Think we know
yes,
that. I think we
yeah.
suspect it. Okay.
No, I think you have plenty of evidence to show that they like they've only been competitive in games against Boston when Deuce has played. Basically, it's like been the only time they've been competitive in those games is the minutes he's played. Now, is that because Deuce is like this fucking game changer? No, that's not what we're saying, or not what I'm saying anyway. But I think if the process is better, the Knicks will be more competitive. Like I've said before, like the Knicks can get swept and it could still be like competitive and you can feel good about it. Like if they lost a bunch of like fucking 4 or 5 point games to Boston, I would be like, okay, like they need more, they need to do better, what et cetera, et cetera. But I generally feel pretty good about what was achieved this year. And I think Tibbs has shown actual growth. And like, if we can now just strengthen some positions in terms of depth, then next year we go back at it and now we have a real chance of competing. Like, yeah, I can feel that way. But there's no world to me where we just play Cleveland or forget Cleveland. We're probably going to play Boston. So just say Boston. There's no world where I think it's acceptable for the Knicks to just get destroyed by Boston. And if they do just get absolutely destroyed by Boston in every game, that to me would be a reflection on Tibbs. Like I don't see how he could do the things we want him to do, and the games are just remotely uncompetitive. And the fact is, like, the games have been they've been uncompetitive against Boston. Outside
They
of
were
like
down
some
3-1.
runs.
They were down 3 in the third quarter that one game.
Yeah, and why did that happen?
To Deuce, was it Deuce? I actually
Right.
don't remember.
Yeah, Deuce came in the game, and all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, we can get some stops, and we can actually defend
Hit
the
some
point of
shots.
attack. And it's like that's my point. Is like I'm sorry, I reject the idea that I can sit here and tell you that Boston's a better team than the Knicks because I think they're a better team than the Knicks, and I've thought this from fucking day one of the season. I've never wavered on this. I think Boston is going to repeat. I think they're ultimately the best team in the league when you put all your chips on the table and it's money time. I still think they're the best team in the league.
Lakers beat
So
OKC by 27 tonight, by the way, and they have the second best player of all time and Luka. Just saying.
that's fantastic. I think Boston is smoking them in a playoff series. And I don't really give a shit about what happens in the dog days of the regular season to determine that. But like these games haven't been competitive. Like the Knicks have enough talent to not look like a fucking joke when they step on the floor against Cleveland, against Boston. And you know what? The Knicks played the Lakers. They could have easily won that game in LA. They could have easily won the game.
They
That
could
was
have
with
won both
Luka. That
games,
was
I think.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
That
but
was
you're
with
talking about
Luka. That was with Luka. That was with LeBron. That was with Austin Reeves. Like that was with the whole fucking crew. They could have easily won that game. So there's no reason for the Knicks to play a series against Boston and it be not competitive for 4 games. If that's how it plays out, then no, I don't think the season is a success. And I don't think you would if the Knicks, you're really trying to tell me if the Knicks play Boston 4 times and each game is like 15 plus wins for Boston, you'd be like, yeah, they did what they did. Like the Knicks ultimately hit the kind of level that we expected. And like, no, we would be pissed and we would deserve to be pissed because just because you have less talent doesn't mean that these series should be uncompetitive. And every game against Boston has been uncompetitive so far. Like just totally uncompetitive. Not
in
even
the grand
close.
scheme of things, though, is there a big difference between a competitive loss and a non?
Yes.
End of the day,
Yes.
you win or lose.
No, there's a big difference. And don't try to tell me you don't think that's true. That's horseshit.
I want you to make the case that it is true.
You want me to make the case that it's true?
Yeah, because who cares, right? You lose, you lose. Who cares if your game close?
Because
right?
that's how you
Patrick
fucking judge a coach.
Patrick Ewing went to
That's how you judge a
7 with the
team.
Rockets.
That's how you judge a team. That's how you judge a team. Oh, are they close or are they a joke? If they're just getting fucking pounded into oblivion by the Celtics, something has to change. Some people could be like, "Oh, that's the players." Okay, I would probably disagree with that, but fine. Maybe that's what you feel. Or the coach isn't getting the best out of this group. Okay, but it's something. If you're competitive, you have a lot more information going into it, and it's very likely if you're competitive that Thibs did a lot of positive things in the series, and you can feel better about him as a coach. If you're going in and you're getting fucking mollywopped, you don't feel good about anything. You don't feel good about your talent going into the offseason. You don't feel good about your coach going into the offseason. How the fuck would I call that season a success? I'd feel pretty depressed going into that offseason. Be like, well,
did you think the Raptors were right to fire Dwayne Casey after losing 45,000 times?
Yes.
But I mean, it wasn't Casey getting fired that changed things. It was getting Kawhi, right? And
but I don't think Casey was. I think you could have given Kawhi. You could have given him Kawhi. LeBron could have left. Dwayne Casey could have been the head coach. I don't think they'll win the finals.
Okay.
I mean, I don't really see anything to suggest that he was a championship level coach. I mean, we saw him coach after that, and he was not particularly great in Detroit. And I know that Detroit had a lot of things going on, but the idea that coaches can't move the needle at all is obviously wrong. I mean, say whatever you want about JB Bickerstaff. He clearly is moving the needle in Detroit. He's clearly got them playing at a much higher level than anybody.
Isn't that kind of a natural progression of their guys are just hitting especially Cade is hitting the age where guys tend to, I mean, you've talked about this, right? The Knicks signed guys were 24, 25, 23 when they start to hit that kind of inflection point in their career. So that's part of it, right? I mean, Cade is just at that age.
What did you think the Pistons were going to do coming into the season?
I mean, they're the Pistons, so not good. Not this, right. Yeah.
So it's not just a natural progression of, they're young and guys got better. Like, it's clearly more than that. It's very obvious. Like, you can't tell me. And I don't think JB Bickerstaff is some, like, fucking next-level genius. But he's clearly doing some things right.
I mean, he's in the Thibs. He's a Thibs variant, right? He's great at building a culture. Yeah,
but that matters. That's part of being a coach.
I'm not. That's not a.
Yeah. So, like, but that's again, there's potentially ceilings to that coach, as we're seeing with Cleveland. Like, hey, JB Bickerstaff did a great job of kind of helping us establish something, but you were not going to be the guy to get us over the top, and we believe in our talent in a way that, like, we think the right coach can elevate this group without making significant roster changes. Like the Cavs didn't make a significant roster change coming into the season. They signed.
Mobley got a lot better. I think that counts. Mobley got way better, and they got DeAndre Hunter.
Who cares, man? They were good before DeAndre Hunter. Give me a fucking break with DeAndre Hunter.
I mean, against the Knicks, it's made a big difference.
Has it? They smoked us before they got DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah, but it's also like there's just like you cut off all of their avenues, and they just have this fucking 6'7" guy.
I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't think DeAndre.
You don't care about. My bold take is I'm more worried about DeAndre Hunter in a playoff series than Jaylen Brown.
Okay, you're fucking on crack, dude. You're on crack, actually. That's the fucking most insane thing you've ever said. You're more worried about DeAndre fucking Hunter than Jaylen Brown, who was actually a Finals MVP.
Jaylen Brown plays. Okay, Andre Iguodala was a Finals MVP. Don't.
Okay,
Nick
so
Foles
you're
was
trying.
a Finals MVP.
Okay, so Jaylen Brown was the best player on that team in that final series. Not saying he's the best player on the team.
But who was the defense worried about? Like, yeah, Kevin Durant was the best player on the team. Who was the defense worried about?
You're moving the fucking.
I'm not moving
goalposts.
What I'm saying is, who do I care
You
about?
just said DeAndre Hunt. You're more worried about fucking DeAndre Hunter than Jaylen Brown. Get the fuck out of my face. That's fucking insane. That's fucking insane. That is fucking insane.
And he's a way better defender. And he's a way better defender, by the way.
No, he's not.
Then Jaylen Brown?
No, he's not a way better defender.
Maybe Jaylen Brown can turn it on. Okay, I'm talking about this season. If you talk about
I don't know what you're watching this season that you think DeAndre Hunter is a way better defender than Jaylen Brown. Like, I think you're just saying shit.
Jaylen Brown's been kind of mailing it in.
Oh wow, a guy that just won the championship last year isn't going super fucking hard in the regular season.
Well, that's what I'm looking
We've never seen that before.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, but you're projecting forward. You're saying, "Oh no, I'm way more worried about Jaylen Brown in a playoff series." Or sorry, way more worried about DeAndre Hunter in a playoff series.
I think he's been fucking really tough for the Knicks to deal with, especially because they have.
Okay, so but is he okay? He's tough for the Knicks to deal with on the Cavs. On the Cavs. If you were like, "Hey, DeAndre Hunter, go be the second best player on the team," you're really trying to tell me you're more worried about Jaylen. Like
that's a different question. Now you're moving the goalpost. You're moving the goalpost.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Okay,
then if you want to make that comparison, what you should say is, I'm more worried about DeAndre Hunter than I'm worried about Derek White, the fourth option on the team or something. That's what you should say. Comparing Jaylen Brown to DeAndre fucking Hunter is bananas. That is fucking crazy. It is ludicrous. It is almost as ludicrous as suggesting that OG Anunoby is as good of a rebounder as Josh Hart. It's almost as crazy as that.
Ooh, going with the hot takes, going to the listeners. Can I say this? A big reason the Knicks beat the Cavs as dominantly in the playoffs as they did was that we didn't have to worry about any of their fucking wings. We didn't give a shit about Karis LeVert. We didn't give a shit about Isaac Okoro.
I worry about Max Strus as much as I worry about DeAndre Hunter. That's your point. Like, I think Max Strus
It's both. It is absolutely
the void.
Both.
He fills the void that
but if it was just Max Strus, we could attack him on defense more than we can. We've tried to attack. We did not try to attack Max Strus on defense, by the way, the last time we played Max Strus in the playoffs. So maybe all of this is moot. DeAndre Hunter doesn't have a weakness on either side. Really.
Okay, I think that you're just fucking wrong about DeAndre Hunter.
What's his weakness on either side?
He's not a good defender. I'm sorry. Okay. He's not that good of a defender. You're acting like he's like fucking prime.
Unless he's Kawhi Leonard.
You just said you worry about him more than Jaylen Brown, dude.
Jaylen Brown is not a good defender.
Jaylen Brown is a perfectly fine defender. Is he great? I'm not saying he's great. I'm saying he's a perfectly fine defender. And you're telling me
I think DeAndre Hunter is more better than that.
No, he's not. That's a fucking joke. That's a joke. You think DeAndre Hunter is a better defender than Jaylen Brown? Jaylen Brown, go watch the NBA Finals. Go watch the NBA Finals last year. Go watch that. And go watch what the fuck Jaylen Brown did to Luka Doncic. Go watch that. DeAndre Hunter, in his fucking pathetic, shitty fucking life, as a fucking piece of shit fourth overall pick, who's now a sixth man, who you're gassing up like he's fucking Brandon Roy or something, is never going to hit that level. That is absurd. That is
maybe post-injury Brandon Roy.
That is an absurd statement. Absurd statement. Crazy statement.
I don't think Jaylen Brown has been that good this year. That's my point. And let me add this. All right. Let me add this.
I don't care about that because what you're talking about is
who do we have?
You're talking about the playoffs.
Who's our best player?
When it comes to the postseason, Brunson.
Right. I think I am not worried about Brunson cooking Jaylen Brown. I'm a little worried about him cooking DeAndre Hunter.
I'm not worried about Brunson cooking DeAndre Hunter. Are you fucking kidding me?
Okay.
You're worried about you're really telling me DeAndre
more
Hunter
than Jaylen Brown. More than Jaylen Brown.
Okay.
More than Jaylen Brown. I think he's gonna fucking.
All right, we need to
put Jaylen Brown.
This is a fucking insane argument.
You know, we might lose. We might get swept.
The guy that embarrassed Luka Doncic and made him look like a fat fucking.
You can't do that to Brunson. Brunson is quicker. Brunson is quicker.
But you're right. But DeAndre Hunter, oh God, he's gonna have Brunson in jail. holy shit,
I didn't say
DeAndre
that.
Hunter.
I'm saying I'm more
fucking
worried about
God.
him. And when you add the offense,
Why?
and when you
Were
add
you
the
worried when DeAndre Hunter was on the Hawks? Were you ever like, oh my God, I'm so worried about this guy?
No, but the Hawks suck, and he didn't
Okay,
have
so
two.
okay, but that's
But
the
he has
point.
two great
That's
rim
the
protectors
point.
behind him.
That's the point.
So he
That's
has
the
two great
point.
rim protectors.
That's
So if
the
you
point.
flip teams, yeah, I agree with you. All right, we're gonna say to ourselves 10 minutes. That's my fault.
The
If they
Celtics are the
flip
best.
teams-
They're like a top 3 defensive team in basketball. They're better than Cavs on defense. Jaylen Brown has been part of an elite defense basically for the last 4 fucking years of his
I
career.
think that has a lot more to do with
DeAndre Hunter just he got one. He is good. He's good. He's improved a lot. Good player. He is a 6th man, and you're comparing him to a guy who has played major fucking playoff minutes, had major fucking playoff games, and you're telling me you're more worried about this fucking turd of a fucking 4th overall pick over a guy who's been a multiple All-Star and had a Finals MVP that he deserved Finals MVP, and made Luka Doncic, who I know
56 true shooting,
is a
by the
top
way, this year. 55 true shooting this year, by the way.
3 player in the NBA, made him
55 true shooting.
That's your
From
argument.
Jaylen Brown this year. 55 true shooting on the fucking Celtics. Dude, he's putting up RJ Barrett numbers on the Celtics.
Great.
So you're more worried about RJ Barrett than you would be about DeAndre Hunter.
I think if you're comparing a fucking 6th man to the second option, you're just totally arguing bullshit. That's what I think.
Do you think there's something to the idea that Jaylen Brown is putting up RJ Barrett true shooting numbers?
I think that he is having a bad season. That's what I think. And I still think push comes to shove in the postseason. I don't think it's a fucking question who I'm worried about, Jaylen Brown or DeAndre fucking Hunter, who has played 7 fucking, like has he even been in the playoff? Well, he played 1 playoff series since their fucking fluke Eastern Conference Finals run. Congratulations to DeAndre Hunter. I'm sure he's wonderful. But no, like Jaylen Brown's a significantly better basketball player. He's always been a significantly better basketball player, and he always will be a significantly better basketball player. That's my belief. I don't even know how the fuck we got started on this, but the Cleveland thing, like they're really good. They're probably better than the Knicks. No, they are better than the Knicks, but do I think the Knicks have matchups that are better for them and they match up better against Cleveland than Boston? Yeah, absolutely. I don't even think that's a question. And I don't think Jaylen Brown's had a good year. I think he's had a bad year. I've said this multiple times. I think he's had a terrible year. But
Jaylen Barrett, you mean?
Yeah, Jaylen Barrett. I would love to have Jaylen Barrett on the Knicks. I would take Jaylen Barrett on the Knicks over fucking Mikal Bridges, I'll tell you that. And I think you would too, if you were being honest.
Oh, this might be my new hater agenda. It's Jaylen Barrett, bro.
I do not. Yeah. When RJ Barrett wins in the Finals MVP,
you do know that there are Celtics fans who actually think Brown is better than Tatum, and it reminds me a lot of the RJ Barrett discourse.
Well, they're stupid.
Like that's why the Finals MVP to me is so fucking stupid. I was like, yeah, because it's like
it wasn't stupid because Jaylen Brown was actually better than Tatum in that series.
It's like, okay, Wes Welker put up better numbers than Randy Moss. That doesn't mean he was a better player.
But you're exactly making the point. You're now when it suits you, you're saying, oh, no. But Tatum he's the center of the defensive game planning. Jaylen Brown gets off him. But when it comes to DeAndre Hunter, no, we can't talk about that because he's so good. And it doesn't matter that he's the 6th man. It doesn't matter that he comes off the bench. It doesn't matter that he's the 4th most important player on the fucking floor.
65 true shooting versus 55.
Great.
That's a
congratulations, DeAndre
and it's not like DeAndre Hunter is OG
congratulations, DeAndre Hunter,
getting 9 points a game or whatever.
Yeah, congratulations to DeAndre Hunter. When he actually has to like run an offense at any point in his fucking career, I will care. Until that point in time, there's not even a fucking question who I'm more worried about, who is a better player, and who is a bigger threat in a matchup. Like DeAndre Hunter is probably like, if the Knicks are like drawing up, you're playing the Celtics, you're drawing up a scouting report. Jaylen Brown is probably the 2nd guy on that scouting report when you play the Celtics. DeAndre Hunter is like,
bro. No, I'm putting fucking. He's
4th. That's great.
He's 4th.
That's great. You can
seriously.
That's great.
Who is the fucking 7-3 guy that can shoot? He's number 2. Who are the guards?
Great. The guy that can't create. The guy that can't create.
The guy that will pull everybody else out to the fucking logo. Yeah.
Great. That's a great talent he has, but that's not a talent that involves significant defensive game planning. And the reason why you have to game plan for it is because of what the guys that can do off the dribble can do. Not because
I think it's
Kristaps Porzingis is the most incredible thing ever.
That changed everything for them. I think you're now understanding that. But
no, I think you're being full of shit because they won a finals without Kristaps Porzingis on the floor. He played one game. He played one game in the finals. He barely played in the playoffs, and they walked to a finals. So I don't want to hear about Kristaps Porzingis change the fucking game for the Celtics. That's so fucking full of shit. They won, 50? They were the 1 seed the year before. They lost the series they should have won, that they probably still would have won if Tatum doesn't get hurt right at the start of the game.
They didn't face the greatest team in the finals last year.
I don't know what this has to do with anything I'm saying.
I mean, I'm more worried about Porzingis than Brown, especially.
I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to game plan that significantly over Kristaps Porzingis. I think you know exactly what he is. He's not going to break you off the dribble. He's not going to compromise your fucking schemes by getting into the paint.
You know what Brown is? He's not going to pass. He's not going to fucking do much. He's going to get the ball off the ball. He's going to drive. He's going to pull up.
Jaylen Brown, 4.5 assists a game, doesn't pass. Yep. This is a great argument.
I mean, Kobe had 5.5 assists a game.
Yeah, and he was a great passer. I'm not sure what your point is.
I mean, Westbrook averages 10 assists a game. Doesn't mean he's not pretty easy.
When Jaylen Brown has no off-ball utility and and just handles the ball fucking 75%.
That's kind of the point. Porzingis has a lot of off-ball utility and can
That's his utility. It's off-ball. Nobody gives.
I think
about what
I think the fact that there's an argument, I know you don't think there's an argument. The fact that there's an argument.
If there's an argument for him, it's because of what he does on defense. It has nothing to do with his offensive gameplay.
Well, they have 5 guys, so that's kind of its own thing. And I do think if Brown was on the Cavs, it would be a different story. But I don't care about Jaylen Brown.
Right, but you care a lot about DeAndre fucking Hunter, who apparently you just discovered is the greatest
on the Finals MVP. On the Finals MVP part, can we just agree Wes Welker was not better than Randy Moss?
Who's arguing that? What the fuck is this argument?
That is like arguing Jaylen Brown.
No, it's not. It's not
Finals
arguing,
MVP over Jason Tatum.
It's not.
That is like arguing Andre Iguodala was MVP over.
It's not.
Steph. That's like arguing Durant was better than Steph.
It's not. You're just being full of shit right now. You're arguing bullshit, and then you're presenting it as a fact, and then you're denying the fact that Jaylen Brown literally outplayed Tatum in the finals. Not that he's I'm not saying I've never argued in my entire fucking life Jaylen Brown is better than Jason Tatum.
Why was he able to outplay Tatum in the
Because finals? Tatum played poorly. He shot like shit. I don't know what you want me to say.
Because he was the focal point of the defense.
No, because he shot like shit, dude. Watch the fucking games. Did you watch the finals or did you just fucking bury your head in the sand and jerk off to DeAndre Hunter or something? What are you talking about here? Really? Jason Tatum?
My head was in the sand. How would is DeAndre Hunter below the sand? But Brunson shot like shit against the Cavs, but you told me that he was still the best player.
This is an absurd argument. He was the only guy that could create a shot in a series that was a rock fight. So yeah, if you want to compare that to what you're saying,
and Tatum was the main guy that they had to rely on, and he had to take more bad shots.
He didn't. I mean, that's the thing. He was just bad in that series, and it's fine. It happens. I'm not sitting here again telling you, oh, Jaylen Brown is so much better than Jason Tatum. I've never argued that. I never would argue that. I think Jason Tatum is clearly a better player than Jaylen Brown. But in that finals, no. Like, Jaylen Brown was better. And Jaylen Brown was elite on defense in that finals. He literally put Luka Doncic in jail. Embarrassed him. Luka Doncic couldn't even get the fucking ball off the floor. You can go watch the games. Go watch them back if you want. This was not some like conspiracy theory to give Jaylen Brown the finals MVP. This was not the Steph Iguodala thing. Because Steph literally had better numbers than Iguodala too. This is not the same thing. And I don't even understand the Iguodala argument. Because Iguodala blocked up LeBron. LeBron averaged like 35, 10 and 10 or something in that series. So I mean that doesn't even make sense to me either. It's not the same thing. This is not the same thing. And it's not because, again, Jason Tatum overall, way better than Jaylen Brown. For that series, he was not. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's just what happened in that 5-game sample. Jaylen Brown was better. Now, does that matter? I don't know. Doesn't really matter to me. Doesn't matter as far as saying Jaylen Brown is a top 10 player, top 5 player, anything like that. I've never argued that. He's better than fucking DeAndre Hunter. I mean, that's not even a question. That's
I'm not saying
crazy.
he's not better. I'm saying when I'm looking at these teams, I don't care that much about Brown.
What if he's better? Then how the fuck are you more worried about DeAndre Hunter than Jaylen Brown?
Probably because the Celtics because I think DeAndre Hunter is more of a tipping point for what the Cavs do and what we're able to do against them than Brown is for the Celtics. If
I think you're like using all kinds of weird contextual things to justify something.
No, I know that we won that series for two reasons, right? We were Mitch dominated their bigs, and we could play 5-on-4 essentially on defense. DeAndre Hunter and Strus, to your point, Strus is better than those guys, but Strus, we could play 5-on-4 on both ends. Their wings were completely fucking useless. So that is what changes. If Jaylen Brown is out, we're still getting swept by the Cavs, by the Celtics. Like, yeah, if Jaylen Brown was out, do you think that we're not getting swept by the Celtics? We are. Like whoever, like
I don't think we should get swept by the Celtics either way.
I don't think it would materially change things too much.
I don't think DeAndre
because
Hunter,
I think he changes that team because
I don't
we used to be able to fucking ignore their wing all the time.
I don't
defense.
think
or if it was a Coro, we could ignore him, and if it was defense, then good luck switching fucking Cedi Osman onto Brunson. And even though I think Brunson can cook DeAndre Hunter, it's much different. He can cook Strus. That's the difference, right? Hunter gives you both ends. They have a two-way wing. That's like a game changer for a team that really had everything else already.
Again, what you are describing right now is DeAndre Hunter's value to the Cavs as a thing they didn't have. That is not the same thing as saying, I am more worried about DeAndre Hunter in a playoff series than Jaylen Brown, which I think it is. Crazy.
That's what I'm saying. When we play them, that I think to me is like that's
he's
what
the
I said,
fifth
right?
guy. He's the fifth guy. But what you're saying is now that we have to worry about wait, hold on. What you're saying is now that we have to worry about the fifth guy, that matters more than Jaylen Brown. I'm sorry, that is the wrong. That's like saying that. Then at that point, what you're saying is, so you're more worried about Drew Holiday than Jaylen Brown.
I think that the Celtics are so the Cavs have a very defined hierarchy. It's 1, 2, and then a bunch of threes. The Celtics are 1 and then a bunch of 2s. No, like, is Jaylen Brown better than Drew Holiday? Yes. Is Jaylen Brown that much, like, in terms of their offense, Jaylen Brown versus Derek White, they're pretty similar. There's a lot of people that argue that Derek White has a higher impact. So the way they play their offense, everybody's a threat anyway.
I would argue that Derek White is better than Jaylen Brown, but that's not the
everyone's a
conversation
threat. Everyone is a threat. With Cavs, they have a very strict hierarchy, and DeAndre Hunter means a lot more than them.
The Cavs have a really strict hierarchy. I don't think that's the case at all. I actually think that's the reason. That's the main thing they've changed. Is they are way more fluid.
They have the guards and they have the bigs, and then they have it's more strict than it's more strict than the Celtics. After Tatum, everybody else is kind of an interchangeable piece, and even Tatum isn't that much higher. Like, I would argue Mitchell has a higher. Does Mitchell have he doesn't have higher usage because Tatum just had an awesome season, but like
Mitchell's on 31 usage. I don't know what Tatum's on.
Tatum's probably there, right? My point is, like, everyone is a threat for Boston anyway. The gap between White and Brown isn't that huge.
What you're arguing is more of a team thing. It has nothing to do with the individual. Because if
it is 100%. If you put Jaylen Brown on the Cavs,
but then make that argument. The argument you're making.
I didn't say. Did the words DeAndre Hunter is a better player than Jaylen Brown come out of my mouth?
When you say, I think he's
I'm more worried about him right now.
And then you started calling Jaylen Brown Jaylen Barrett. So I'm sorry, like.
You got to. The listeners want to show, baby. The listeners want to show, and he's Jaylen Barrett this year. He's 55 true shooting, weak defense. So yeah,
I'm not sure the defense is weak. I don't really know where the argument.
RJ Barrett is also putting up 56 true shooting, and leading the Raptors.
And if RJ Barrett was on the Celtics getting the same minutes that Jaylen Brown was, they'd be significantly worse as a basketball team.
No arguments there.
Yeah. So, all right. I don't even know. I don't know. We should just end this. I have no idea where the fuck this came from.
Yeah, we talked about 25 minutes. Any closing thoughts? 50 wins for the Knicks. Who do we have
Good
next?
stuff.
I don't know.
Thank you to Leon. Thank you to Thibs. Whatever anybody thinks about those guys, they did a hell of a job turning this franchise.
Oh, we've got Jaylen Barrett coming up on Tuesday.
Wow, great. So pumped for this matchup. I'm sure it'll be fantastic, just like the first three have been.
Well, are the Celtics? They are not locked in, right?
They should be locked in. I think they're basically the 2 seed now. I don't know what we can't catch up to them.
They can technically, yeah, they can catch. Do they have the tiebreaker with the Cavs? I don't know. Because they're not going to catch up. So I wonder if they'll probably be resting guys.
They've been resting guys on and off the entire way. So
the Knicks got the Celtics and then the Pistons. So it's
it's Celtics, Pistons, Cavs, and then they close with the Nets.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to lose that Nets game, but hopefully.
Hopefully the Nets game doesn't matter. Hopefully it just doesn't matter. The Pacers play the Cavs, they play the Magic, and then they play the Cavs again the final game of the season. So
why are the Cavs still playing players?
Good question. I guess
they played everybody tonight. I saw that.
I think they can still. They had a chance of still getting the number 1 overall seed, but
wow, okay.
But I mean, I think if the Thunder win 2 more games, it's over. So,
yeah. Well, let's root for the Cavs against the Pacers and 3. I mean, yeah, this is if we're disappointed in the 3 seed and 50 wins, then I guess it's better than we're gonna get you right, Moutier.
Yeah. All right, Stacy, anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
I'll actually plug. I didn't see the recap for tonight, but Matt Brando wrote a really fun recap. I'll say the title: Trae Young equals Dorian Gray for the Knicks Hawks game yesterday. So I would actually. It's not very long, but I think you'll enjoy it. So I'll plug that.
Awesome. I have nothing to plug myself, so check out all the work at Strickland, the recaps, everything that Stacy's working on, and other people. So, all right, that is our show for today. I hope everybody has a great week. The Knicks are off tomorrow, but they do play on Tuesday, so we will be looking forward to that. All right. Again, everybody enjoy the week, and we're out of here. Peace.